Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to yet another One Make series, and this time it's the turn of the Ginetta G55 GT4. Kyalami, located in mid-round South Africa, plays host to round 2 today, just over 4.5 kilometers in length with 16 turns. I'm John Dalton, your lead commentator. Alongside me, Jesse Lee, and behind the cameras is a new face in the form of Ash Bibby, and of course a big hello to our live stewards. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, John. Hello, everybody at home as well. Round number 1 was absolutely electric from Misano in Italy 1 week ago. We can only imagine things are going to pick up from here, though, as we are at the world-renowned Kyalami circuit in South Africa. As you said, and this track has known to produce some excellent racing, some excellent strategic calls in the pit lane as well, and some very interesting liveries on the racetrack, though that's less Kyalami's fault and more the creative genius of some of the race teams out abroad. I think today we're going to see pretty much the same thing we had at Misano, maybe a little bit more passing, though, inside the top 5. What do you reckon?
Yeah, One Make Racing always provides some excellent drama, doesn't it, up and down the field, and some super close racing last time out at Misano. But right now, we're on board with Miguel Martins, as of course he'll take you through a lap of the Kyalami circuit. Of course, downhill to the right was the first corner known as the King, a heavy braking zone for turn 2 of Crowthorne before you get to the Juski sweep of turns 3 and 4 before opening up to Barbecue of turn 5. Be careful on the inside curb, can really unsettle the car, and make sure you maximize your run down towards Sunset of turn 6, because if you get somebody alongside you, the outside line is not where you want to be in this fast swooping right hand corner. Got to maximize all the speed you can, carry as much momentum as you dare before getting to turn 7 of Clubhouse. Again, an excellent passing place if you do get a clean run through Sunset. Now we begin the run, of course, to the S's. Very big curves on the inside. Again, easy to upset the car if you're too greedy. Flick it left, flick it right, and again, maximize your exit as you have a long drag up the hill towards Leocop of turn 10. Of course, the tricky kind of 10 and 11 double apex hairpin almost. And again, it's crucial. I keep saying this on this lap, but it's so crucial to get good runs out of every single corner, especially in this One Make series where everybody is in the same car as you. So any advantage you can get, the better. Down the hill, of course, through Mineshaft, turn 12, relatively easy before standing on the brakes super hard for turn 13. The Crocodiles, again, a good passing place if you can get up the inside. A little bit squirrely from Miguel Martins on the exit. Turn 14, the King. Turn 15 of Cheetah using all of the inside anti-cut curb. I'm pretty sure that was up on 2 wheels there, Jesse, before getting to turn 16 of Ingwe. And again, a clear run out of the last turn because it's such a long drag down to the first corner, should we say, although the kink isn't really a corner. Of course, Crowthorne turn 2 is where we'll expect to see a lot of passing. Miguel Martins there showing us a terrifying face on the front of his car. And of course, the clock has just got to the 10-minute mark. So if you did begin a lap, I think you're still eligible to continue, as such is Kevin Boss for the Wheelie Slow Racing number 31. Of course, Kevin Boss fresh out of Suzuka this week, Jesse, over in Japan for the weekend, and now back here in South Africa for Tuesdays, or Monday, should I say, sorry. A regular here at RCI, and a name we know very well, so hopefully Kevin can propel his championship forwards at the moment. Down in P9, we expect to see him a little higher, but still a lap on the card, Jesse. Could this be the one to propel him towards the front of the silver field?
Could very well be. It's going to be interesting to see how they recoup. Of course, Wheelie Slow in the 24, like you said, and that was just about 24 hours ago, so no rest for the weary here. Immediately back into competition, completely different circuit, completely different car. It's so hard after a 24, especially with all the prep to work with. We'll see if he can keep it up. We'll see if he can move up further in the field. He was, the pace wasn't quite there for Kevin Boss, but I've guaranteed
in the qualifying is the preferred place to have it, shall we say, rather than, of course, in the main broadcast. Of course, the last time we ran the Ginetta championship. It wasn't the first time that we've hosted this, of course. Last season, it was Wolf Matushka that took honours over Marius Torzidlo and Christoph Verstreppen in third. And silver saw Christian Lindgren beat out Konrad Jetson and Dominic Fakete to the honours. Good list of names, of course, signed up for the championship so far, including last Monday's Porsche champion, of course, Jeffrey Miguel Renault Ricci, who has since signed out of the championship. He was looking very dominant in the early days, of course, in Misano and in the pre-qualifying as well, but no more. Of course, Andy Boardman took top time in pre-qualifying, followed by Nico Kumpu and, of course, Renault Ricci. Sim Brothers with a strong showing near the top end of the grid as well, so, of course, be prepared for those guys to capitalise, and fielding a good, I think, 4 or so cars in the field, Jesse. They're looking very confident for potentially taking a win at some point this season, I would say.
Could very well do. This is the interesting part of the season. We're still near the front part, and anything is possible. We've had a couple of cars that have not returned. One car in particular, right? So you wonder who's going to take that spot, who's going to step up, and who's going to eventually show up for this championship and show out. And so often, race number 1 is a little bit of a red herring. Not saying it is this season, but we find that in broadcasting a lot, don't we? That race number 1 is not usually indicative of how the entire season is going to play out. You get a better idea, better perspective 2 races in. Silver qualifying all done and dusted. That has released the pros out on the racetrack. They have been out there on their opening lap already. So these are the laps that really matter now. 7 minutes now, 6:40 left to go to really get in there. Not a whole lot of opportunity to improve. They're going to have to be on it from the jump here unless they get a poor starting spot. And we've seen exactly already at Misano what happens when you get a poor starting spot. You put yourself in danger of running into danger. Hopefully some of the drivers that struggled with qualifying last week are able to rectify that here today and show us what they have. There were some notable exclusions from the top 5 at Misano that we would expect to finish inside the top 5. Let's see if they're able to work that out here today.
Yeah, of course, it all comes down, doesn't it, to who's kind of prepared the most, who's practiced the most. Some people obviously do a lot of GT4 outside of RCI. Others don't tend to sway too much into these cars, so it can be a bit of a learning curve for the first couple of races. We've already had one of the No Practice Gang members in the YouTube chat already, so welcome on in while we, of course, get through the pro qualifying at the moment. John Aracer still, of course, with the top time for the moment. Andy Boardman, of course, your fastest pro car on circuit at the moment, followed by Jordan Daly. Bjorn Wallerius, again, another driver hot from Suzuka. We then got Phil Roberts, Christian Lindgren, Matthew Kingston Lee, possibly the greatest name in sim racing.
Greatest last name.
Greatest last name, maybe, for you, Jesse Lee, of course, on that one. And Joe Dauber, of course, just below him as well. Those of you that aren't familiar with the GT4 format, of course, the GT4s do not have tyre blankets enabled to them, so your Pirellis do start stone cold out of the pit lane, and of course that then kind of throws you off your qualifying sequence. So rather than being, you know, like we see in the GT3s, Jesse, a kind of hot lap stint where you may get 2 or 3 laps out of the car before coming into the pits to take another set of tyres and a little bit less fuel than you once did. These tend to turn into almost mini stints where you have to go out for 2 laps or so, really work on the tyres, get them up to temperature, look after them before, of course, gunning it for your all-important few qualifying laps. And of course 10 minutes on the clock and just under 2 minutes a lap with a 1:49. That's not many attempts on a nice hot set of tyres, so drivers are going to have to be super careful tonight to really get those laps in, as Joe Dauber slides very wide through turn 13, the Crocodiles, and that's going to be an invalidation of his attempt this time by.
Certainly will do, and you can ill afford things like that. So many of these names, John, we were calling in the 24, weren't we, really? So these drivers, fresh out of that, immediately back into what we would consider traditional league racing, traditional club level racing, where you got a set schedule and they're 1-hour races and all that. So immediate gear switch for so many. Wallerius, one of those drivers who has just been bested to pole position. Jordan Daly has reset quick lap, a 49.465. for Race Ventura's Jordan Daly over Walerius. Andy Boardman third, Jonna Razor in third, and Victor Nordquist, who has returned to the series with the family. He's brought friends as well, a fellow Nordquist in the race as well. Nico Kumpu in sixth place for Rebound Racing, another driver that was doing absolute bits over the weekend during the 24 hours of Suzuka, looking to get it done here on Monday as well. I don't know how these drivers find the time to practice for all these races, let alone be in the competition, be in the conversation to win all these races. They're just absolutely talented.
Maybe it's the perk, Jesse, of work from home in this day and age. Of course, since the pandemic, everybody's job seems to have shifted towards their house. So, what your boss thinks, maybe you're toiling away at work. Secretly, you're putting in some practice laps for Kyalami for the evening's race coming up for you. But who knows? But yeah, it's a busy old schedule nowadays, sim racing, compared to what it once was many moons ago. Of course, select platforms with races along through the week, and now it seems any time of day, hour, morning, noon or night, you can pretty much sign up to an event, and it's fantastic to see here. Snooty McFlude for the Flying Hellfish Tater's terrifying face fronted car, sister of course to the Miguel Martins car, starting off a kind of trend, should we say, currently on his lap. He comes across the line, doesn't beat his best, 150.4 last time by, best to beat nearly a 150 flat, so he's still got some improvement there. Of course, if he does improve, it's very small margins we're talking tonight, of course, between all of the cars throughout the field, so the smallest of gains, Jesse, could propel yourself forward a good couple of rows on the grid at least.
Yeah, you certainly hope so, and especially with how close these cars are. One make spec series, we mentioned that, and we keep mentioning that because a 10th here can often mean more than one position. If you look at Matthew Malcolm, for instance, they're in 16th, they're in the silver class, but to make my point clear, if they would have gotten an extra 10th, they would have shifted from 16th all the way up to about 14th, and that's a couple of different rows in front. That makes all the difference. The same can be said up here. If Andy Boardman's able to gain a 10th, he is going to go quite close to P2. He would move to the other side of the row as it stands right now, but even still, that little bit of an improvement, that's a shot in the arm. It doesn't really matter most of the time what side of the grid, because you're able to jockey for position a little bit, but even still, being that little bit quicker, that does something for you mentally as we get near the end of qualifying. Daly the quickest at a 49.307, so he's gone faster for Race Ventura, while Lirius 3/10 thereabout off. As a matter of fact, Nico Kumpu's just come across the line, and he's bested Walerius. Kumpu goes P2. They're provisionally the front row at the moment. Grease Weasel Racing 69 coming to the line. What can Boardman do? He needs about 3.5 tenths. Could he get a lot of that back? He will do indeed. A 49.377 just about takes the field, and it's 7/100ths between him and Daly. Boardman goes to the front row.
We're talking such slim margins here tonight. It's fantastic to see. Of course, Victor Nordquist up there in the mix as well. And Jordan Daly, currently your pole sitter, has another stab at it. Of course, last time by 151.7. So backed out at some point, probably created some space. Of course, it's quite a busy track here, although we do have, of course, the split qualifying. There are 37 cars on the field tonight, and if you split that down the middle, that's a good few 20s at least to try and jostle for position as we ride on board here with Jordan Daly. We get to see the kind of hand movements that go through. Of course, it's a very kind of go-kart-esque car, the Ginetta, as you see Jordan Daly flicking it into sunset to get that initial bite and then smoothly winding on the steering lock. And again, through Clubhouse, you see the kind of jink of the wheel, jumps on the power. Of course, the naturally aspirated engine picks up quite well. A little bit of oversteer coming out of turn 7, now down towards turn 8. Of course, be careful of the curbs, propel yourself up the hill the best you can. Of course, we get to see a little insight to his lap time on the dashboard there, although in-game deltas, of course, showing 0, and I can assure you that this lap is close to 0. There's a small loss as he comes over the top of the hill through turns 10 and 11, of course, before the run down into mineshaft turn 12. And he's going to stand on the brakes very hard for the Crocodiles, try and carry as much momentum as he can. Of course, the track does kind of go a little bit uphill, and he's overcooked it on the inside curb, Jesse. That's a big time loss. Jordan Daly, of course, weaving the steering wheel there, showing probably that he knows it's all lost and more than likely going to practice a pit entry again. It's crucial you do this during the practice and qualifying sessions, because we do have, of course, that mandatory pit stop tonight. We saw so many drivers last week, Jesse, overcook it on pit entry, clattering the Armco and bouncing themselves down the lane as Matthew Kingston Lee improves ever so slightly up into P10, and that will round out your qualifying here today at Kyalami. What a competitive session we had. Times very marginal between all the drives, and again, not one driver taking the clean sweep of 3 purple sectors.
Oh man, Andy Boardman's going to be wondering what could have been had he had just a little bit. And folks, I mean, just a little bit better sector 1. He could have had pole for Greased Weasel. That was so close. Jordan Daly on pole position didn't have a single fastest sector to his name. He was just quicker over the course of the entire lap. That's very rare that we see the pole setter not get a quick sector, but it doesn't surprise me that Daly was able to put together that lap. But Boardman's going to look at that time and go, he needed less than a half of a tenth, and I think he might have had just about enough to get it done. But we'll see how it goes in the race. Close for all of these drivers. John Razor by far and away the quickest in the silver class. Miguel Martins in 13th place. The next nearest, Matthew Malcolm, down in 20th place. The third quickest silver driver, Rudy Philmalter and Mike Redford, the top 5 there. Ted Edwards there in 6th place as well, looking quite healthy, that silver class indeed. It's going to be interesting to see. Of course, everybody racing for their own championship. Pros racing for pro, silvers racing for silver, of course. So if you are a silver starting midway through the pro field, it's quite dangerous, isn't it, really? Because the pros don't really have a whole lot to lose making passes on you. As a silver, as one of the faster silvers, you have everything to lose. You got to err on the side of caution a little bit.
Yeah, it comes back to what we were saying, doesn't it, at the weekend, Jesse? Of course, we need to choose our fights very wisely. And as a top silver, there's no point fighting a bottom pro for a position that's going to net you, no championship points gained. You could set to lose a whole bunch. And of course, speaking of championships, between qualifying and the race is usually the time we do go over those championship standings. I believe they are queued in the wings should Ash Bibby fire the button and get them on to your screens for the YouTubes. And we'll run through them as soon as they are ready. Of course, as we said, Jeffrey Miguel Renault Ritchie signed out of the championship from last week, which is such a shame because it was a very dominant performance that he did have in round 1. And of course, what could have been had we gone to round 2 together. Looked like the only driver that could, in fact, touch Andy Boardman. Well, and I believe maybe some technical difficulties we do have in the wing. So I'm going to read off the championship standings from the website. Of course, Andy Boardman. We'll start with pro. Andy Boardman, of course, taking the majority of the points from round 1. He heads up the field on 61. Nico Kumpu next up in the list on 53. Joe Dorber in 3rd on 48. Phil Roberts with a strong showing netted 44 points. Christian Lindgren, you remember that man? I said won silver last time we ran Ginetta's. He's now in the pro class with 40 points. Matt Stevenson, 37. Grim Lilith on 34. Tom Shipston on 31. Mitchell Menez Rodriguez, another Sim Brothers Racing entry, on 28. Aaron Jackson on 25. Bjorn Wallerius on 23. Richard Phillips on 21. Matthew Kingston Lee on 19. Les Stevenson, 17. Snooney McFlude on 15. And Thybart Roskam on 14. Matthias Byron on 13. Victor Nordquist, 2. Mike Redford, of course, in 3rd with 56. Our very own Kevin Boss with 48. Callum Kerrigan with 44. Ted Edwards on 40. Tim Ireland with 34. Matthew Malcolm with 31. Lauren De Jong with 28. Pavel, Levu Pavel, nets 25. Sam Burnett on 23. Our very own Sarah Stanton with 21. Bren Jones on 19, Cherry Stewart, Richard Hutchins, Rudy Philmalter, and Frederick Rude are yet to score in silver. Rudy Philmalter did sign out of round 1, but is present tonight on home soil. And Alexander van der Voorde has signed out of the championship despite netting 37 points in his inaugural race. That would have put him just above Tim Ireland in P6. So plenty of names, Jesse, of course, we recognise up and down the grid. We know it's going to be a super competitive race tonight, of course, with qualifying times so minor between the drivers, especially the top ones. And Andy Boardman, of course, with his very strong showing from round 1, I think all eyes are going to be on him when the green flag drops.
Yeah, certainly is. 2 notable exceptions that have retired from the championship. Quite unfortunate. We were just 1 week ago talking about Jeffrey Miguel, Rita Ritchie, the possibility that they had to dominate this championship. Could they do it again? And it could have been in their court. It unfortunately isn't going to be. Somebody else is going to win a Monday championship. The question remains who? Andy Boardman, the furthest up of the championship rivals in pro. They've got the they have somehow over the week found themselves as the champ leader, and they've had a good qualifying here today to boot. Was reading some things from the chat, and Matthew Malcolm saying hoping their luck changes today. Matthew Malcolm needs a luck change indeed. So we'll see if that can continue, if their good fortune and their good qualifying continues there. The Nordquists looked pretty good as well. Looking for a revision of their luck here today as well. Mike Redford, as always, joining us, making their comments in the chat. Richard Hutchins has told us they have fixed their graphical issue, whatever that would have been from a week ago. They've been able to fix that in the week, and now they're just hoping they have a better race. We wish them all the luck. If guys, if you're listening to us on the pace lap, we appreciate you, and of course, good luck here today. A large number of the drivers are in the chat or are listening to us at various points during the broadcast. I would have thought that would be a tad bit distracting, or in my case, I reckon I'd put you to sleep. But there you have it. They're still listening.
Yeah, it's great to see, drivers tuning in now and again, and I know a lot of drivers will be watching this back again from the VODs and the the YouTube live rewatch, should we say. Great to have you all here, whether you're driving, you're watching, you're just lurking in the background. Of course, none of this would be possible without you guys at home signing up to the events, taking part, and of course showing your appreciation to us. We do thank you all from the bottom of our hearts, as well as our partners that make this possible, of course. AK Esports, a leading Italian company in esports management and providing our service solutions here at RCI. Driver61.com, of course, 25% off your driver coaching with a link down below in the description. Fanatec, again, if you're looking to pick up any new hardware, we do have an affiliate link. The Quick Release 2, of course, is out, and the Fanatec Rally button box has been announced recently as well. And, of course, 2 new partners, digitalmotorsports.com and Go Setup. You can find both of their links down below as well. We thank every single one of them, partner, watcher, lurker, whoever you are, welcome on into RCI TV. We hope you enjoy your stay, and we're about to get the green flag underway now for round 2 here at Kyalami of the Ginetta Cup. We've got an RPMS car starting from the pit lane. We've got Jordan Daly to the left, Andy Boardman to the right, Victor Nordquist and Bjorn Wallerius on the next rows of the grid. Sim Brothers will unite. Will they have friendly fire? Let's find out. Green flag drops, the gantry turns to green, and we begin racing through turn 1, of course, which isn't really a turn, all the way down to the hairpin of Crowthorne. Side by side, we normally see 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 wide as the cars jump on the brakes and begin to bunch up. The front runners, of course, getting away nicely. It's all about the guys behind that you've got to watch as the pinch point ensues. Jordan Daly takes an early lead from Andy Boardman. Victor Nordquist pressuring already in the back. We've got 3 cars breaking away from the pack. It all looks relatively clean, I say. Commentators curse more than likely in the background as they head through Barbecue towards Sunset. Now, of course, Jordan Daly heading off the field. A little bit of dirty air wash for Andy Boardman. Gets loose through Sunset towards Clubhouse. That could really open things up as we see the chaos ensuing in the background. 3, 4 wide. Friendly fire on the Sim Brothers. We said it before we went green, and they've done it again. It's not what we'd want to see, but It's all good in jest. I'm sure they're all having a great laugh about this in a Discord call somewhere, Jesse.
Yeah, what they're probably doing actually is just, oh, that was really close right there as well. Coming down through the S's for the first time, but they're able to just about avoid calamity. That's the second week in a row, folks. We've had teammate on teammate violence in the opening lap. It was a different team last week, of course, but it's still the second time we've had that happen. I don't know if they'll be laughing so much about that right now. They will be after the race for sure, but they're probably saying, what are you doing? Have you gone blind in the last 5 minutes? What's going on there? Probably desperately calling out to each other, don't do that, don't do that. Simply trying to help each other spot each other, as you will do in the opening laps of this race. Just about everybody single file now as they come through the Crocodiles, and now Cheetah and Ingwe. A little bit of fighting again for the Sim Brothers team. You know, they consolidated their entry in the 24 Suzuka over the weekend to one car, but when they race in a weekly championship, they all show up, and it's every Swedish driver for themselves. Let's go back and show some more of the near contact. There actually was contact here. Must have been picked up. A little bit of side strafing going on right there, but everybody able to just about survive it. Out front, everybody trying to keep it nice and calm. The 53 car, I believe it is, has gone off of the race course, and that is really unfortunate for them. I think that was in barbecue. They went off the race course. Jordan Daly leads the race, but only just, as the 77 car is sitting in pit lane. Now, I don't know if they're in a pit box or what, but they seem to be just inside the bounds of pit lane. Very interesting.
Yeah, the 77 was there when we went green. I thought they elected for a pit lane start. That's Matthew Stevens, of course, the RPMS entry, sat there as Mike Redford goes very wide coming out of the S's before his run up to Lear Cup. And we said, of course, in the qualifying, it's crucial to get good runs out of corners, and that's front. And Andy Boardman in second, followed by Victor Nordquist, managed to get off to a clean start in third still. Phil Roberts, surprisingly, at the front in the Jeff Gordon-esque livery as well, as we have a few more technical difficulties tonight. Please do bear with us on this one. Nico Kumpu next in line. Joe Dorber, Rebound Racing 5 and 6. Bjorn Morlerius slipped to P7 from that opener. John Aracer in the 699 racing car in P8. He's the first of your silver drivers. And, of course, Matthew Kingsley for KL Racing, the 555 in P9. Carlos Calatayud for Rebound Racing, the last of their entries, I think, on the grid tonight in P30, rounding out your top 10, but he's got Snooty McFlood pressuring him as he comes into Sunset. Of course, side by side into the corner they go. It looks like Carlos Calatayud is giving him space, but Snooty McFlood not able to get the car turned in with enough momentum to get alongside. And of course, Jake Boswell just behind these two as well, watching them fight. And another Rebound Racing car, actually, Thibaut Roskam, just behind his teammate. So probably wants to try and get through Boswell and Snooty to try and act as a rear gunner almost towards his teammate of Carlos Calatayud, just inside the top 10. As we come to the top of the hill, leaders relatively unfazed. Still Jordan Daly, Andy Boardman, and the Nordquist of Victor towards the front, and Walerius trying to get near Joe Dorber as they come down the hill to try and make a pass. And just flicking through the grid on my end, we've got another move hit from Matthias Byron and Richard Hutchings. Again, Richard Hutchings not having the best of starts at round one, a much better start this time, out running in P27 overall, but that makes him, I think, about P5 or 6 in the silver class, trying to take over. Oh, we've got a car spun. Benjamin Schumann has spun into the Crocodiles. He's facing the wrong way for Rebound Racing, backing off the circuit, letting everybody go back past pretty much. He's down into P36. That's a big loss, as Tim Ireland is the next car ahead of him in P35. Everybody else looking relatively unfazed by it. Everybody avoiding action and getting around them in that spin moment. Towards the front, though, it's still Jordan Daly out front, 0.6 to the good, tied for the fastest lap with Phil Roberts. Both cars setting the exact same fastest lap. That's a 149.855, which is absolutely bonkers in the same make class. Of course, everybody's got different driving styles, braking points, throttle points. You know, everybody drives ever so slightly different, and to get two cars on the exact same kind of lap time, that's absolutely crazy. But Meanwhile, as we round, of course, lap 3, Matt Stevens still in the pit lane. Ted Edwards has had a moment in the first sector. He's slipped now down into P36 as Callum Kerrigan comes under pressure from Lavelle Pavel into Sunset. They go. Clubhouse not close enough to make a dive into the corner just yet. I think Pavel may be nursing some front end damage on that Ginetta, so possibly why they're not able to get close enough to Callum Kerrigan just yet. Rudy Filmalter, meanwhile, looking to capitalise on Kevin Boss coming up the hill into the Leo Coupe section of turns 10 and 11. Rudy Filmalter's going to have to go the long way round. They bump doors, and Kevin Boss retains his position, P27. And Rudy Filmalter just coming under pressure now from Mitchell Menez Rodriguez, and it's all scenes coming down into the Crocodiles right now. Matthew Malcolm's about to lose a position to Richard Hutchins up the inside. A fantastic long braking maneuver sees Richard Hutchins go up into P23 as Matthias Byron trying to latch onto the back of the next train ahead. That's Frederick Rude in P23 for Silver, but that'll have no effect. He's got to pass Aaron Jackson in P22 before he capitalises any points at all. And then he's got Christian Lindgren and Richard Phillips all in the line ready to pounce and try and gain some spaces. Les Stevenson meanwhile trying to capitalise into turn 1 with 3 wide coming out. It's Roscam, it's Snooty McFlood, and it's Jake Boswell, the big winner of this one. Jake Boswell up into P10 now. Snooty McFlood side by side still with Thibaut Roscam. Grim Lilith getting involved in the Dale Earnhardt senior liveried car, and of course Carlos Calatayud has kind of lost all his positions. He's P14 now.
He's intimidating him. I'll tell you that right now. Good Lord.
We seem to be back with RCI TV, and hopefully RCI Radio did enough that you could visualize what was going on in those opening 9 minutes. But fantastic racing, Jesse, and it's fantastic to see what is going on between these Ginettas. But Grim Lilith, the big gainer on this one, and Carlos Calatayud, the big loser.
Is that you can do it, and we saw earlier with one of the Sim Brothers cars, you're able to rub a little bit more without turning the other cars, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing depends on your driving style.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to the Ginetta series. Apologies there for the technical difficulties. We've handed over a broadcast and we've changed a few things in the background, and hopefully we'll be with you now until the checkered flag. But what an exciting few opening laps. Of course, we did try to bring you as much as we could through RCI radio description, but Jordan Daly out front, half a second to the good of Andy Boardman, half a second back from him is Victor Nordquist. And is that Jeff Gordon in the background? No, it's not. It's Phil Roberts in the 225. He's mixing it up in the top end of the field as well. Nico Kumpu just out of sight, 1.8 seconds to the good. And Rebound Racing, Joe Dorber again, they're in a little onesie-twosie there with Nico Kumpu and Dorber just behind. Walerius is pressured by John Aracer, Kingston Lee and Boswell round out your top 10. And it's been a fantastic start to the race, Jesse. We're only 13 minutes in, but I don't think any of these fights are going to settle until the checker flag goes down.
No, this is the problem, or well, I say it's a problem, but it's not a problem. That's the glorious part of these Ginettas. It's the glorious part of this racetrack as well. You get this sort of pattern, this sort of cycle, and there's nothing you can do about it. Jordan Daly, a very fast, accomplished racing driver. I mean, heck, everybody in this field is, to be fair, but how many races Daly's won, and quite recently as well. And he just can't pull away from Boardman. These cars just don't really allow that too much. You'd have to be massively quicker, because even if Daly, throughout the course of sectors 1 and 2, and even the biggest part of sector 3, pulls away from Boardman, there is enough draft in these cars that Boardman can just suck back up. And that's exactly what's happening with Daly, Boardman, Nordquist, and Roberts. And if they don't shake a leg, Nico Kumpu might join the fray as well. These cars all fighting over those positions. And if I know something about old Jeff Gordon in the background right there, he's gonna be the quiet one. He ain't gonna make too many waves here, but he's gonna be when that pay window opens, he's gonna show up. That's what the Rainbow Warrior does. So we'll see. And there is Nico Kumpu, by the way, in the black Ginetta coming into the picture. So definitely not falling back. Yeah, indeed, he gained it just about 1.5 tenths in that sector alone. So you got to worry about that. No issues for John Aracer. The biggest issue for the silver leader currently is, well, do I pass a pro car inside the top 10 or do I hold station? Miguel Martins is second in that class, but there is a humongous 8-place gap between the two of them. Mike Redford in P3 and Richard Hutchinson, who is blessed with the art of 3D graphics that aren't flickering this week, in P4. It's amazing what actual rendering can do for you there. I poke fun, of course, just happy that he's able to sort that and be running so decently so early on.
Yeah, exactly that. When the hardware kind of all works and it all plays ball, it's a lot easier to drive a car, shall we say, than with a flickering screen. So kudos if you do have that issue. The reason you do have that is because your field of view is set too low. Try and bump those numbers up, and that was what fixed it for Richard Hutchins. So maybe it can fix it for you too. Andy Boardman, though, coming under immense pressure right now from Victor Nordquist. And like we said, Jeff Gordon sitting there in the background in the form, of course, of Phil Roberts. He's ready to pounce. If these guys start squabbling, I'm sure Phil Roberts is going to take advantage of that. And before you know it, Andy Bourne will be shuffled from second all the way down to fourth. And of course, Jordan Daly ahead of them is slowly pulling out a gap. It's nearly up to a second now. And of course, Daly is going to be relatively unfazed with a second on the board, Jesse. He's not even going to be looking in his mirrors. He's going to be treating this like a hot lapping session, just trying to drill in the fast laps, focus on what's ahead, and really try and drive away from this kind of pack behind at the moment.
Yeah, I was sitting here wondering what Phil Roberts does for Kaiju Racing. I don't know what they can do. Now, if they try to pass Victor Nordquist for Sim Brothers, they're going to lose time and potentially lose contact with Daly and Boardman. So possibly the best case scenario for Phil Roberts is that if Boardman starts racing Daly, meaning getting side by side, Nordquist gets involved and Phil's able to take an opportunistic move and get by one of the two of them without any sort of issues. But I think everyone's just pacing each other out a little bit right now. I feel like if Phil wanted to, he could have ran up the inside. I felt like Nordquist could have done that on a couple of occasions the last few laps as well. They haven't tried that on Boardman. Everyone's just sort of pacing each other, knowing it's still early in this race. And, of course, a pit stop left to go. No need to panic. Bjorn Walerius, though, has had an issue in the 139. And looks like John Razor's been able to get through. And I can't tell if that's damage or just the very colorful artwork on the back of that race car. I'd hate to think that there was contact there that led to that. Maybe just a little bit of a mistake, but either way, Walerius now down a place. John Razor no longer has to worry about do I or don't I, because Walerius was the car, of course, in front of them. The best last name in sim racing, trying to make a move here now in the shuffle, and all the time, Nico Kumpu continues to gain on the top four. He is the fastest car on the racetrack right now, is Kumpu. He was 1.85 seconds behind this group a lap and a half ago. It's down to 1.25 seconds. Kumpu is flying. Look at this right here.
Speaking of flying, the Intimidator flying up the inside there into the top of the hill. Lear Cup, of course, turn 10 and 11 side by side down the hill. They shall go through Mineshaft, of course, Suni McFlude and Grim Lilith. It's not Dale Earnhardt Sr. back for a career in sim racing. I can assure you of that. Kaiju Racing opting for NASCAR themed liveries in this season, which is fantastic to see. And we do love the creative efforts of everyone on the grid, even though Suni McFlude's livery is absolutely terrifying. Through the penultimate corner, they go a little bit wide for Snooty ahead. That's going to allow Grim Lilith, of course, with cleaner tires to get a much better run through the last corner. And of course, you do want to get the maximum run down to the second turn, should we say, because of course turn one is officially the kink, the small right-hander they're going through now. And looks like Snooty McFlude's got much better drive out of the last corner. Not sure what happened there to Grim Lilith, but something definitely did happen to lose that amount of ground. Meanwhile, Matthew Malcolm coming under pressure from Callum Kerrigan, who has a 15-second penalty to their name. Of course, stewards catching up on the lap one incidents, and it looks like they're fairly settled, Jesse. So I don't know if you want to run through them to find out who's done what to who and why.
Yeah, of course, lap one, it was heavily contested, and I think they've just about got through the lap one incidents. Though I say that, they've only made it to turn 7 on this list, but I will read out what they have done. Lap one, turn 1. I suspect they don't actually mean turn 1. Which is the kink. I assume they mean Crowthorne, but I digress. Warning for car 731 for avoidable contact. They were 3 wide with the 48 and the 222. Just a warning there for avoidable contact. Nothing major. Racing incident between the 23 and the 28 in turn 3. A 15-second penalty that you've alluded to for car 28 for taking out car 711. Position return. That was lap 1, turn 4. 5-second penalty for car 8 for avoidable contact with car number 4 up in turn 5. I think that's barbecue. Racing incident, minor contact between the 47 and the 30. A 5-second penalty for car 47, forcing another driver off the track up in turn 7. And a warning for car 62. Unsafe rejoin. Rejoins on the exit curb. And look at this. We've got Jeff Gordon coming down the pit lane.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon down the lane. It's going to be traditional NASCAR trolley jacks and the 5-lug guns rattling off all the wheels if he goes for tires, of course. Mandatory pit stop in the Ginetta series is, of course, pit window, only 20 minutes in length and a fixed 25-second refueling will, of course, make for some interesting calls, with tires only costing the drivers an additional 5 seconds on their stop time. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the pit timers, as we always do, to try and figure out the strategies. But a wiggle from Jordan Daly. We said it in the qualifying run through, of course. You want to get a good run through Sunset. Otherwise, your rival can get alongside you into Clubhouse and, of course, can remain alongside into the S's. And just look at to the top right-hand side of your screen, of course, the mirror. We've got Victor Nordqvist in the fight as well. This is a 3-way fight. Now we've taken out Jeff Gordon and Joe Torba and Nico Kumpu just behind as well. And looks like Nordqvist was accidentally looking to the outside, maybe caught off by how early Andy Boardman was braking and just had to take avoiding action through Learcop. But down the hill they go. Of course, Nordqvist is going to be a little further back than he once was. That's going to allow Boardman to, of course, focus on the back of Daly and try and drive into the empty space that could be up the inside, round the outside. Who knows where the gap might emerge? But of course, with the pit window open, does Andy Boardman decide to try the undercut? Will he pull his car down the pit lane, try and get out of this fight? Of course, he's the car in the middle, exercising all all the track limits, Jesse. I mean, we pay for the whole circuit. Why not use it?
Yeah, they're using that and then some. They're just about visiting the beach. You know, South Africa has some beautiful beaches. This isn't one of them here at the famed race course. Well, we'll see if Boardman continues to pile on the pressure. He smells a little bit of blood in the water. Boardman might as well be a little bit of a shark as they go side by side through Crowthorne, around the outside and off of the racing circuit. Unable to woe it down, unable to turn that Ginetta. That releases Jordan Daly just about for the time being. Victor Nordquist unable to gain anything meaningful from that section in the Juicy Sweep and Barbecue as they end up 1, 2, 3 and looming large in the background. Nico Kumper, who has somehow, it will last lap, they lost a little bit of time to these three despite them scrapping. Kumpu made it all up and then some back in Sector 1 and immediately back on them. Boardman's just getting through Sunset so much better than Jordan Daly. Is that the run through Barbecue? Is that the run down that little mini straight? I don't know, but that's the second time in the row Boardman has been right on the back of Daly, but a worse off Clubhouse and the S's, and all of a sudden Nordquist now looking around the outside. I think that's purposeful. He's trying to V off the corner and get a run down the mine shaft. He hasn't done it. In fact, he's given Daly and Boardman a little bit of breathing room this time again.
Yeah, it looks like he hasn't learned from the last lap, has he? He's gone wide through turn 10 and 11, and that's just allowed the gap to open up that little bit more. But Daly certainly looks more confident through the latter half of the lap, I would say, Jesse. But Boardman is certainly winding on the pressure through the first sector or so, as we see a slide there from Andy Boardman as he runs through the penultimate corner, of course, turn 15 of Cheetah, and he's going to try and maximize the run out of the last corner of turn 16. He's now going to follow in the wake of that Ginetta. It's a tiny hole, it's punching in the air, but it's a hole nonetheless, and every little ounce of advantage you can get in this car is crucial. Here begins the run down to Crowthorne now, turn 2, not close enough to make a move. Daly breaks diagonally into the apex. Andy Boardman, much straighter line. There's a bump there from Boardman into Daly. That's a friendly one, I would say, and that's just to say, hello, I'm here, you're holding me up, let's get a move on, let's see what we can do, see if we can drive away from Victor Nordquist, of course, the number 19 just behind, looking to capitalize should this all go very south indeed, as we see a few more cars completing their mandatory pit stops coming through Sunset. It's close, Jesse. Into the clubhouse, they're trading paint. I'm sure if we go down to the paddock after this race, there's going to be blue and black paint all over the rear of Jordan Daly's Race Ventura number 197 entry, but this is some spicy stuff in the One Make series.
You know what's really interesting? I think the big winner when all the dust settles after the pit stops is going to be Phil Roberts for Kaiju. They came in at the right time, right before all of this kicked off. Look how held up Victor Nordquist is here. Look how held up everybody in this trade is. Daly's going super defensive and backing everybody up, and that's going to play right into Phil Roberts, who came out in space. They are right behind Matthew Malcolm for 20th, of course, but if they're able to dispatch a Matthew quite quickly, they could end up inheriting the lead from just about fourth place. By the way, Kumpu has got right up to the back here. And look at this. Matthew Malcolm from Malcolm Racing doesn't want anything to do with the Rainbow Warrior here. He has gotten out of the way. That has released Phil Roberts. Happy days, as Andy Boardman has now had the same exact idea for Greased Weasel. Get out from behind Jordan Daly, let Nordquist deal with him. Boardman's into the pit lane.
Yeah, he's only getting held up by that point, isn't he? There's a contact there from Snooty McFlude, and that collects Ross Cam, I think, in their car scatter to the right-hand side. Miguel Martins goes through, I think Christian Lindgren avoiding action there as well. Wasn't really paying attention to what happened, but Grim Lilith with a great
just got in there and got him.
Great run through Cheetah, jumped on the brakes, and he did more than intimidate him, Jesse. He shoved him round.
Dale Earnhardt famously said at Bristol one year after wrecking somebody to win, he says, I didn't mean to wreck him, I just meant to rattle his cage. I think Grim I guess thought that Snooty was going to be longer in the braking zone, or maybe missed his own braking point. Either way, he Dale Earnhardted him.
Is that I think a phrase we're coining now? Dale Earnhardted, when somebody tries to intimidate and it all goes horribly wrong, like we coined the phrase "kumpood" in another broadcast not so long ago. But everybody in flying formation now through sunset they go. Grim Lilith at the helm of the field. Student Fluid, the next car behind. Menace Rodriguez behind him, and then it looks like one of the RPMS cars. I think that could be Matt Stevens. He mentioned earlier in YouTube chat he's had a few issues getting to the race, but he has done now, and he is circulating around, albeit off the laps, although Stephen's showing in the pits as me, so not quite sure who the RPMS car is, but there's certainly one in the mix. It's certainly not Kevin Boss in that liveried car. I can tell you that. As round the outside goes Menez Rodriguez. He's going to try and make it work. He probably listened to Victor Nordquist telling him not to try it, but he's going to try it anyway, and it doesn't pull off, unfortunately. Snooty with a much better run down towards the mine shaft, and Menez Rodriguez going to have to slot in, although he's going to try the long way round of Crocodile. I'm not sure it's going to quite work, but going to try the old switcheroo if he can towards Cheetah, but just not enough momentum off the corner to pull alongside.
Daly's
It's
in.
very tricky, but Daly down the pit lane, well spotted, Jesse.
Yeah, Jordan Daly's come down pit lane. That's no doubt a reaction to what people behind him are doing. This fight continuing. Grim Lilith down into the lane. And while we have a moment to catch our breath, huge shout out to Ash Bibby for another 5 gift subs to the RCI YouTube channel. Miguel Martins, Tom Watts, Murdoch, Sicko, Philippe Breccia, thank Ash Bibby for your gifted membership. Enjoy your channel icon, your emotes, and that sort of thing. Big thank you again to Ash Bibby, who is just about ready to name his second championship. Ash is going to end up sponsoring the entire RCI series. We're going to have a slew of Ash-themed championships as that's close, coming out of the pit lane, absolutely scaring the white car in the group. Everybody able to get away cleanly. Jordan Daly runs off exceedingly wide, and somehow we escape without a major calamity, let alone a waved yellow flag. Of course, nobody knew exactly what was going on there. Daly's tires, the brakes, something amiss there. Going down into the corner caught him off guard.
Look in the background, though, Andy Boardman on the replay just snaking through. We managed to see him trying, probably rubbing his hands with glee, seeing Daly fire himself off the road just ahead. Benjamin Schumann, again, on a bit of a comeback drive after getting turned in the Crocodiles. He's up to P20 and still a pit stop to go, so he's going to be shuffling his way back down the order. Just been looking at the pit stop timers, Jesse, trying to work out tyres versus no tyres. Phil Roberts, of course, the first car down the lane. He came in and out in 56 seconds. Jordan Daly, for comparison, a 1 minute 1.9. And of course, with Daly overshooting the first corner, like you said, Jesse, I wonder if he's on cold tires, cold brakes, and the car just didn't want to stop. So maybe 1 minute 1, 1 minute 2 is what we're looking at for tires, and maybe under a minute is what we're looking at for no tires tonight, as we have a realm of people coming into the lane. Victor Nordquist, John Eraser, Boswell, Lindgren, and Snooty McFlood, to name a few. So that's going to shuffle the top of the field once again. A couple of penalties, of course, up and down the field remaining to take. We've seen a drive-through, I think, for Carlos Calatayud as well. I can only assume that was for speeding in the pit lanes. There's no drive-throughs being given out by our stewards tonight, although we do have a few more reports siphoning on through from lap 3 to 4. So lap 3, turn 12, involving the 199, the 48, and the 2. 15 seconds for the 48. The 199 lifts in an unusual place. The 48 hits them in the rear and takes them out. Still on the following car, not to hit the car in front in the rear, sorry. The 199 holds the brakes the entire time, unavoidably hits the number 2, but the 2 also does enough to try and avoid the contact. 48 clearly attempts to give the position back, but seems to mistake another car for the 199 and keeps going before actually giving it back finally. Lap 4, turn 2, involving the 464, the 375 racing incident. Lap 4, turn 5, involving the 375 and the 8. Warning for car 8 for avoidable contact. Lap 4, turn 11, involving the 555 and the 30. That was a racing incident. Lap 4, turn 11 again, involving the 48 and the 98 racing incident. And lap 4, turn 11, involving the 4 and the 31, deemed a racing incident as well. So no harsh penalties being given out tonight so far. Just a few couple of 15 seconds, I think, maximum we've seen. And of course, the drive-through stop and goes self-inflicted by, of course, the tricky pit entry. We said it in the early broadcast, didn't we, Jesse? Practice those pit stops, because that can be the success to making up a few more places. Nico Kumpu, Bjorn Walerius and Menez Rodriguez, to name 3, coming down the lane this time by. That leaves Joe Dorber, Kingston Lee, Ross Cam and Callum Kerrigan still to serve their pit stops with 8 minutes on the timer, Jesse. It seems like this kind of, smaller pit window with the fixed refueling time has really dropped a lot of cars in early. We didn't tend to see a lot of, undercuts, overcuts, etc. As we see Andy Boardman elbows out on the number 8. I think that's Ted Edwards before he came down the pit lane. Yeah, number 8 indeed, it was Ted Edwards. And of course, Phil Roberts, we said it earlier, he's probably going to be loving the drama that they're getting into. Of course, it looks like at the moment Phil Roberts, aka Jeff Gordon, is your lead car, Jesse.
Yeah, Phil Roberts has absolutely executed this quite brilliantly indeed. And I wondered how much the lead quartet had slowed each other up. Well, the answer to that is significantly. Jeff Gordon, aka Phil Roberts, out in front of the cars that have pitted. They're, of course, 4th place right now, but that's because 3 cars, Dalbert, Lee, and Roscom, have not come in to the pit lane for this race. So of the cars that have pitted, Phil Roberts just barely outfoxing Victor Nordquist right now. Nico Kumpu as well in the distance, some 4 seconds or so. That seemed to have been either the Kumpu being held up somewhere, repairing damage, taking tires, something of that sort, because they are not with this group anymore. Daly down there behind Kumpu as well, and Boardman, as everybody has been rocked by Phil Roberts' strategy, and I'm going to say one of the most brilliantly executed strategies I've seen in quite some time. We're talking about the abbreviated pit window that has descended this race into even more chaos somehow. The best last name in sim racing goes to the point, leads here in Kyalami, but still has a pit stop to give. Joe Dauber, Tobias Roskim, both into the pit lane, and that will just about complete the stop with the omission of the 555 out in front of the field. Phil Roberts, though, work to do, work to get done here. Super defensive down into turn number 2, trying to keep Nordquist from looking up the inside. Daly from Race Ventura looking to make a move. Oh, but he's got there. Victor Nordquist has got there as they come up through the Juski sweep and barbecue. Somehow, Phil Roberts finds his way around the outside, back in front as they go from barbecue to Sunset. Defensive again into Sunset. Look at this.
Yeah, Phil Roberts putting up a fantastic defense at the moment from Victor Nordquist. Of course, the Sim Brothers driver, he's had to look at Andy Boardman and Jordan Daly squabbling, and now he's going to have to look at Phil Roberts trying to get a way around him as well. So, Victor Nordquist has got a hard afternoon at the moment, and Phil Roberts is absorbing all of this pressure very well indeed. We saw him win, of course, not so long ago. I believe it was Alton Park in a McLaren. I can't remember what the championship was. I want to say some British GT theme championship we casted on Monday, but Phil, a very capable driver in his own right and a staff member as well here at RCI. So who knows, maybe Phil Roberts to the RCI Esports Blue Car very soon to a championship near you. But going down the hill, of course, turn 12 of Mineshaft in to turn 13 of the Crocodiles. Victor Nordquist going to try the old up and under once again. Phil going defensive. He's parking that Ginetta exactly where it needs to be to keep the Sim Brothers car behind. And like you said, Jesse,
goodness,
like you said, all of the all of the tactics around this kind of smaller pit window, this fixed refueling time, has really paid off for Phil. Typically, of course, we see cars go all the way to the end of the window before coming in at the last minute, and that hasn't happened here. Of course, Phil Roberts has pitted early. He's not taken tires, but Victor Nordquist in the slipstream down into turn 2 they go. He's going to have to go the long way round again if he can pull it alongside for the Juski ski sweep. Of course, Phil Roberts is going to keep the inside line for Barbecue, and that's exactly where you want to be for turn 5, but don't hamper your line too much. But again, Nordqvist just can't do it, Jesse. He just can't get that extra 0.1, 0.2 that he needs to get past the Jeff Gordon themed car. This is fantastic stuff for a Monday night.
Yeah, this is brilliant. And if I'm Phil Roberts, I don't know how much he's raced Victor Nordqvist in the past, but I almost, if I was in his position, I feel a little bit safe. Victor's not the kind of guy to run in there and get you and rough you up to make a pass. He's going to try everything he can to make this pass work, and he's going to try and do it as cleanly as humanly possible. But he's not going to put you in a bad position. I mean, he's going to put you in a bad position because that's how you make passes, right? But what's likely to happen is Jordan Daly just absolutely sends it that time through the crocodiles and just about gets it done. That was a very, very, very deep move, but he's got it done, look. And now a position up for Daly, trying to get back where he belongs. But where did he go?
Yeah, he's disconnected, I think, Jesse. Ash Bibby in our comms box drawing our attention to it. So maybe Daly just getting a little bit too frustrated with how tonight has gone and decided to pull the garage door down for the race Ventura entry. It's a very ballsy move, if I say so myself, through the crocodiles. But Jake Boswell, let's have a look. Les Stevenson firing up the inside. That's not Valentino Rossi. That is Les Stevenson. And stewards report incoming. Les Stevenson to the stewards room, please. But look at this. Victor Nordqvist is closer than he's ever been for the run now, down into turn 2. Phil's positioned the car again on the inside line. He's going to be the last of the late breakers. Can Phil hold on to that, draw the car up in time? Yes, he can. And he just about cuts him off on the switchback as well. Single file through the jet ski sweep and single file into Barbecue. This is a fantastic offense from Phil Roberts.
Oh my goodness, completely off of the racetrack there. Victor Nordqvist, that might be a track cut. That might come back to haunt him. Keep in mind, 21 and a half minutes left to go here in the race. And that was way off of the racetrack for Nordqvist. But again, didn't want to re-merge because that might have been contact with Phil Roberts. Phil Roberts, by the way, has gotten a drive-through penalty. And looks like Nordqvist is finally going to get by. I have nothing on the sheet that tells me the stewards have given Phil Roberts a penalty. Just as I was mentioning the potential of track limits to come in it, was that just a little bit too wide that time through Sunset? A penalty given to Phil Roberts. Victor Nordqvist for the Sim Brothers goes P1.
Yeah, Victor Nordqvist pretty much gifted the position there by Phil. I think Phil saw the drive-through pop up as he entered Clubhouse, and he just gave the space. Didn't want to lose too much time, but again, it's so, so sad almost to see a fight determined by track limits. But of course, every driver is under the same set of rules, so you do have to be careful here. And of course, pushing the envelope, you can push it a little bit too wide, and of course, that's gonna inherit essentially Joe Dorber and Nico Kumpu up another position. Andy Boardman now into the back of Nico Kumpu into the final corner, turn 16. That is not, again, what we want to see. 2 incidences in 2 laps through the last corner, Jesse. Let's have a race replay.
Let's take a look exactly what happened here between these 2 cars. It's the choke point in the racetrack. Oh, and it's just the very, very late braking there. The good news is nobody gets spun around and Kumpu's able to scamper off. I thought Daly looked a little bit out of position after that pit stop. Well, it turns out we've missed something. There was contact between Jordan Daly and Andy Boardman, and that's why they were so far behind and so far out of position. And after that contact, Daly was on a little bit of a recovery drive, and it just hasn't come to pass. But there you have it. There was contact between those 2 cars, the cars that were running 1-2 early in this race, and that has put Daly has put themselves out of the race based on damage, I assume, and the unwieldeliness of driving a car like that. Boardman has continued, of course, P4. I just thought that was so strange that Kumpu, he's not now, but Kumpu was so far behind. Boardman was so far behind Kumpu, and I thought that was strange. And why was Daly back there as well? Just thought maybe a bad stop, but no. Contact between the 2. Mike Redford, though, in the mid-pack, 3rd place in the class, and trying to scamper away from the likes of Les Stevenson, Minez Rodriguez, and Jake Boswell, who have just had contact themselves, by the way. John Eraser pitted somewhat early for the silver class, but they have retaken the lead, of course, after the cycle had ended. No dramas for Eraser. In fact, they've only moved forward up to P6. Miguel Martins has closed the gap. It was 8 cars between the top 2 silver drivers. It's now to the effect of 4, but still a healthy margin nonetheless for John Eraser. Mike Redford, of course, who we see in the picture here, has taken 3rd in that class. Richard Hutchins, I think, has had a not so stellar pit stop or something of the sort, because they are no longer in 4th place. They're down to, what is that, 5th or 6th in their class. Wow, what a race it's been. I'm glad it was this way, in a way, John, because I promised more passing in the top 5, and I think I've nailed it for once.
I think you certainly have. I mean, I'm sure we should check some drivers' PayPal accounts to make sure we've not been bribed into passing excessively. But yeah, certainly been an active race tonight for plenty of action, as well as we catch a race replay here. This is Jake Boswell and Les Stevenson going at it again in turn 1. That's another earned-hearted move, if I say so myself, from Les Stevenson. I think his middle name for this race could be possibly Dale. Who knows there for the number 46, dropping the hammer race, and of course trying to do the intimidating and taking it a little bit too far maybe on that one. So Mike Redford probably going to be running scared a little bit if he's been witness to any of those crimes here tonight. But Jake Boswell down into P16, unfortunately, on that one. And if you guys at home like what you see on your screens at the moment, and you're wondering, John and Jesse, how do I get involved in all of this madness? Well, head on over to racerci.com, where you could of course see our full season calendar. You can also sign up and pre-qualify for events at any given time or day, of course, other than when we are running a 24-hour race, at which point all the servers do come down. So the RCI calendar this week sees Wednesday with our team championship heading to Brands Hatch for their GT4 efforts. Triple R lead RRP and Luna Rossa Racing in Pro. From Ground Zero Racing, RPMS Simsport, and Wheelie Slow Racing in Silver. Thursday, we're heading back to iRacing for Road Season 2, where we head to Daytona International. GT4s and MX5s mixing on track there. I'm told Bart Matcher won GT4 and Tom Bryant took MX5 honours in round 1. So if you are looking to dip your toe into iRacing, head on over to that one. Friday, again, GT Sprint Season 13 was delayed by a week. Sign-ups are still open by that one, and the season start, of course, this week. So get your names down, get involved in that one. Round 1 takes you to where we are tonight, and that is, of course, Kyalami with GT3s. Of course, Saturday next week resumes Night Owl after a week off for, of course, the big one, the World Tour, the 24 Hours of Suzuka. Sign-ups are still open for that one, of course, at any given time or day or night. Round 2, of course, finds them at Hungaroring, and Timothy Flamger leads Jordan Daly and Harry Conway after round 1 as well. And again, equally, if you want to get involved in the Ginettas, I believe mid-season sign-ups are still a thing, so get your name down and join us for some chaos next time, where of course Split 1 and Split 2 essentially are all in one field, which is why we get some names that you may not be familiar with on your screens tonight under the silver category. So no matter your skill rating, we will find something for you at RCI. So racerci.com if you do want to get involved, and hope to see you on the grid very soon indeed. John Eraser, this man on your screen, is of course the silver leader at the moment. I think, Jesse, we could be looking for maybe a little promotion for John Eraser after his solid and valiant efforts today. Of course, P6 at the moment overall, and of course leading silver, and he's got another 4 cars between himself and Miguel Martins before we hit the next silver car. So big ask from Miguel Martins to of course pass all those cars to take some more championship points. So I'm sure, as we spoke about earlier, he will be holding station behind those pro cars. But meanwhile, Les Stevenson coming under pressure from Menez Rodriguez in the Sim Brothers Racing Ginetta. Again, it seems like the Sim Brothers have plenty of action here tonight, and he's not close enough for a move down into turn 2, but I'm sure that's going to change very soon. And not sure what it says on the back of Les Stevenson's car there. All I can read is get any closer.
Get any closer, and I'll push your... Get any closer and I will punch your beard off. That is the most British saying I have ever heard. I'm going to punch your beard off. That's not what Les even sounds like.
He doesn't. I can confirm. I've met him in real life. Yeah, Les doesn't sound like that. But what if you don't have a beard, Jesse Lee? What do you punch off then?
I was going to say, John, if you do shave regularly, how, in general, as a British man, how would one punch your beard off? How would that happen?
I guess you just punch their chin off. I don't know. I'm physically seeing. I'm confused at how this is going to be a thing.
Nicholas Nordquist has received a drive-through penalty, and they have brought the 137 Sim Brothers car into the pit lane. I suspect they will go no further. Just an update on things going on in the pit lane. There has been a 15-second penalty for car number 2 position, or takeout position not returned back on lap 5. Some racing incidents, of course. Drive-through penalty for car 137, the one that we just saw, for avoidable contact leading into a takeout of car 30 on lap 5. 5-second penalty for car 96, avoidable contact position not returned on lap 5 as well. Warning for car 137, rejoining after a takeout full throttle on the racing line, so an unsafe rejoin there. The very same incident, of course, that got him the drive-through. Still, drive-through penalty for car 731, tries to send it on the inside curve of the inside of the 25, hits them, taking them out. 25 even takes avoiding action, still was taken out. So drive-through for 731 on lap 6. A warning for car 375 for a dive bomb. Drive-through for car 53 for an unsafe rejoin leading to a takeout position not returned on lap number 9. A lot of racing incidents here in the mid part of the race. All of these on lap 10 between the 777, the 139, the 555, and the 47, the 1 and the 15. The 6 and the 2, the 115 and the 1, back and forth there. But finally, a drive-through takeout position not returned between the 699 and the 139.
So Joe Dorber getting it a little bit close there with one of the Sim Brothers cars. I think that's Bjorn Wallerius down into turn 2. That was a bit of a pinchy move towards the outside. Tom Watts just ducked his head in the box then, Jesse, to mention that they are 68 lines deep in stewarding at the moment.
Biggie.
We've had reports for 32 of those 68 lines, so there's still 36 lines to go through, and of course only 11 minutes left on the clock. So either we're gonna have to be paying some overtime tonight, Jesse, or they're gonna have to get through these incidents pretty quickly. But we will of course keep you updated with any decisions as they are made, hopefully. Joe Dorber still on the defensive from Bjorn Wallerius, currently the fastest car on the track, with the purple number next to his name, should we say. So bonus points, I believe, for fastest lap in the race. He wants to get through Dorber, of course, because Boardman is the next car in that train. 2 seconds to the good up the road, although of course with the one make series it does make it very hard to get through your opponent. You see Joe Dorber there smashing the brake pedal as he heads it through Sunset, just to try and get the weight shifted forward across the front wheels of that car and get a sharper turn in to try and, you know, carry more momentum and get through the corner that little bit faster than the driver behind. But Wallerius is certainly he's looking left, he's looking right. Any given gap, I think he's going to try and make a move here on Dorber, and looks like pretty congested coming up the hill. We've got, who's that ahead? Is that Andy? That's not Andy Boardman, surely. No, that's a slower car in a very similar livery. Sorry, I saw the green stripe down the middle and I thought Boardman had lost nearly 2 seconds there as the lap car dives out of the way, of course, on the run down to the mineshaft over to driver's left. That allows, of course, Dorber and Wallerius around the long way of mineshaft. And could that set Wallerius up for the inside line? It gets a little bit closer on the brakes through Crocodile especially. And if he can get a good run towards Cheetah, who knows, maybe fire a move into the last corner. We've seen plenty of action there throughout this race so far. Just looking to pit stop times, Joe Dorber with a very fast pit stop, 53.8 from pit in to pit out.
Absolutely
And
rapid.
Walerius with a 59.6. So could the 59s to 1 minutes be the time we're looking for tyres? And maybe the 53 for Joe Dorber has no tyres, and that could be why it looks like Walerius is all over the back of Dorber. It goes the long way round into turn 2. Does he get it drawn up? He doesn't. He has to use all of the track and then some before pulling the Sim Brothers car back onto the circuit. And I've just seen John Aracer, the 699, with a drive-through penalty, and that isn't for track limits, Jesse. That's for lap 10, turn 3, involving the 699 and the 139. That's a drive-through for the 699 for a takeout position not returned. And the 139 is, of course, Bjorn Walerius. We did say, didn't we, Jesse? We thought we saw some damage on the back of that car, and you might have been right, as the stewards have certainly picked it up. Drive-through penalty in the way of John Aracer, and that's going to wind his race back ever so slightly. Not sure it'll be enough. There's a car.
Off there.
Who was that?
141.
Is that Malcolm?
That's Tim. Is that Malcolm or is that Tim Ireland? I don't know. Take a look.
Tim Ireland. I can't confirm. Let's have a look. What happened, Jesse?
Down into the S's here. Yeah, just a disagreement over space. Two cars can't fit into one spot. Kumpu's going to scamper away. And I will say, going back to John Aracer, I think that will be enough for him to lose the lead. It's going to be close. It's not the longest pit lane in the world here at Kyalami. It's actually one of the shortest, I'm pretty sure, if not the shortest. And we'll see what comes to pass here. He's got the better part of 20-ish seconds. I don't think it'll be enough. I think Aracer is going to lose the lead of the silver class right here because of the contact with Walerius earlier on in the race, who, by the way, Boris Walerius has the quickest lap of the race. They've wrestled that away from Nico Kumpu as there's still fighting going on in the background here. Dauber for Rebound Racing up the inside, trying to make the pass work. And he has, well, not necessarily trying to, well, he's still in fourth place. That's the important thing for the time being. Walerius still right behind him. I didn't see Boris make any big move there. I think Joe was the one moving, trying to defend. And sometimes a good defense is better than a good offense. They always say in football, defense wins championships. I suppose you could say the same about racing. Dauber with the move, Dauber with the defense. He gets to keep it for the time being. Victor Nordquist has driven away. And when I say he's driven away, I mean he is by far and away leaving the front couple of cars. It was 5 seconds only a few laps ago. It is now 8.5 seconds. A staggering lead by the Swede. The Sim Brothers Racing number 19 has stormed away from the field. They were patient in third place in the opening stanza, John Dalton, and they've somehow inherited a lead, a massive one at that. And just as we say that, of course, the drive-through for Phil Roberts has dropped him somewhere back to 7th place. And of course, Phil will gain one of those spots back on a Razor, but that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the championship. But Victor Nordquist putting on a show here.
Yeah, I mean, Renault Ritchie, didn't he? Kind of dominated Misano, and now it's Victor Nordquist's turn to dominate Kyalami here today. A few more penalties being handed out, one notably, of course, lap 14, turn 16, involving the 1 and the 115. That was, of course, the Dale Earnhardt Intimidator move, takeout position returned for Grim Lilith, so 15 seconds to their name, and I think we've got 5 seconds as well for the 375. For hitting the number 2, that was lap 12, turn 6, hits the number 2, the 375 then runs them off the road, and position not given back, so penalty given out there as well. Joe Dorber, almost, this is requisition, isn't it, of Phil Roberts with the other Sim Brothers Victor Nordquist car behind him. I mean, if you chuck Joe Dauber in a Jeff Gordon DuPont livery, you'd almost think you're watching the same thing again just 20 minutes later. Tom Shipston, though, on the back. This is just trying to work out who this is ahead, actually, of Tom Shipston. This is Roskam, actually, in the number 96 rebound racing. There's so many rebound racing cars, so many Sim Brothers cars. It's really hard to keep track of who is who sometimes. But, of course, Roskam will will drop a position to Tom Shipston if this battle stays very close indeed. Of course, the 5 seconds and the 15 seconds you see on the left-hand side will be added after the checkered flag drops. So, of course, you will essentially drop positions after the race has concluded. Of course, we were looking earlier at John Eraser, where his drive-through was going to take him, and the answer is to third in silver, Jesse. It wasn't second. He's dropped a position as well to Mike Redford, so Miguel Martins now leads silver, Mike Redford in second, and John Eraser in third. You've then got to go all the way back down to P20 before you find the next silver car. That's Rudy Philmolter on home soil, of course, with a P4 essentially to take away if it stays its way in the next 3.5 minutes or so. Meanwhile, Joe Dauber, again, he's going to have to go defensive, Jesse, into turn one, the kink. He's going to run all the way to the left-hand side like we've seen him do. Valerius then goes to the right. Dauber pulls across to make it that little bit more awkward, of course, holding the middle of the road, parking the car nicely on the apex. Valerius looks to have the overlap, but he's just run himself a little bit too wide. Like you say, be very careful. We've already seen a Sim Brothers car affected by a drive-through penalty. We don't want another one here for track limits, and this battle will reside on for another 2 laps or so. But time is running out, Jesse. 3 minutes on the clock. Valerius is going to have to get something done, and it's going to have to be a solid kind of put the car through, get the move done, and you can't have any comeback from Dauber on the move after you've made it. You're going to have to keep it clean and just try and drive away once you're through.
Certainly do. Dauber is doing exactly what they need to do. You know, most drivers will say they'd rather be the car leading, defending, than the one having to chase and make the pass. There's 3 things that can happen at any time you try to make a pass, and only one of them is good, of course. But Bjorn Valerius, who I've been calling Boris this whole time because I'm horrible at names, I do apologize to Bjorn Valerius. He has ran a pretty darn good race. He's just going to need to get a little bit further alongside. He's going to have to force Dauber to not apex or exit a corner quite as good as it had been. And by the way, I've just realized all of the Sim Brothers cars have those painted posts in the grill opening, and they look a bit like fangs, almost a face in there as well. For those of you keeping tabs on the Andy Boardman, Jordan Daly saga, we did actually announce this quite quietly earlier on. There was contact that I was looking for a potential penalty for somebody to come out of that one. It was several contacts, in fact, between Boardman and the 169 or the 196 of Jordan Daly. They've all been found to be racing incidents for minor contacts. So it wasn't just one incident, it was several. But the stewards have determined, in their eyes, it was 50-50, or it was not necessarily inconsequential, but not massive in any way. But there were several of them, and that's what Daly says is the reason they have retired the car after the contact between the two of them. Boardman has kept going, and to great effect indeed. Andy Boardman in P3, blissfully unaware of what's happening behind him to the tune of 4 seconds, and might even be catching up to the back of Nico Kumpu just a little bit here in the late stages, but might it be just a little bit too late? These guys, though, it is all on them. Joe Dauber and Bjorn Valerius racing for P4. These are good points. This is a big step for them. Whoever takes fourth here, it'd be mega if Bjorn can do it, because if Valerius gets fourth place, they have the fastest lap and fourth place. That's huge for them, because they'll get closer to third place points if they're able to do that. And who doesn't want podium points?
Yeah, podium points would be great, wouldn't it, at the early stages of this championship. Of course, we do We do have a long calendar ahead of us in this one, and of course we'll take you right up, I believe, until just before the holiday season with these fantastic one-make kind of go-karts almost, where we head next week, of course, to Watkins Glen round 3 before we head to Holland for round 4 at Zandvoort. That's on November 27th, and then round 5 we conclude at the Nürburgring, not the Nordschleife. Unfortunately, it is, of course, the GP circuit on December 4th, and Walleris is there, Jesse. He's round the outside. Dorber's on the inside. He's tried to make the long move stick, and Dorber runs him off the road just ever so slightly, and that's going to be a lot of momentum lost, and I'm not sure the stewards are going to think too favourably of that one. And you were speaking earlier, Jesse Lee, about the Boardman Daily saga. Boardman with 5 seconds now. What's happened there?
Yeah, let's take a look. I might have prejudged just a literal lap in front of that. There was a racing incident with the 256, the 197, and the 69. That all was judged there. A racing incident between the 25 and the 555. There was contact between the 139 and the 197. There was a warning for Jordan Daly for forcible contact. There's a 15-second penalty for the 46 and a warning for car 69 for avoidable contact against the 256, and a 5-second penalty for an overtake forcing a car off track. That was versus the 777 though, not the Daily car. So all that taken care of here on the final lap, as the stewards have been super busy. But Victor Nordquist is about to come across the stripe. He's in the final turn now. Just a brilliant job by the Sim Brothers driver. Nordquist has done such a brilliant job, and he certainly deserves this one.
Yeah, fantastic drive from Victor Nordquist, patient from the get-go, and it paid off halfway through the race when he enabled the race lead. Next along comes Nico Kumpu for Rebound Racing again. He bided his time at the start and it takes second step of the podium. Andy Boardman comes in third, although a 5-second penalty. Let's see where Joe Dorber is. He's managed to fend off Bjorn Walleris just outside the 5 seconds, Jesse. 5.098. That's a whisker. A whisker from being off the podium. Jeff Gordon there comes across the line at P7. Roscam P8, although a 5-second penalty will shuffle him behind Miguel Martins and Tom Shipston and Grim Lilith. This is all looking very close indeed, with Les Stevenson, Stooney McFleet, Jake Boswell and Christian Lindgren all in this train as well, and I think they all just crossed the line in the aforementioned order. Carlos Calata Yurt P18, Mendes Rodriguez P19, Rudy Filmalter on home soil P4 in class, taking of course P20 overall. Aaron Jackson comes in P21 before we see of course Kevin Boss in P22, although he's trying to fend off Richard Hutchins. It's not over until it's over, is it, Jesse? Here at the Ginetta Cup, Hutchins is going to try for the old up and under out of the last corner, but just not enough momentum. Kevin Boss will take P22, followed very closely by Richard Hutchins. A much better result there, and a flash of the lights for Kevin to say probably well done. That was a good clean fight. Ted Edwards, Race Ventura P24, and Matthew Malcolm, who dived out of the way of Jeff Gordon earlier on, in P25. The mustache car of Callum Kerrigan comes across the line in P26. And lastly, but no means least, Frederick Rude is the next car across the line. A little wiggle there as he powers out of the last corner towards the start-finish line, and he will be your last car to cross the line. 37 cars started, Jesse Lee. 27 managed to, no, sorry, I beg your pardon, not 27, 34 managed to finish. So 4 cars out overall, but what an action-packed race that was, and results, of course, on your screen now. Walerius managed to keep the fastest lap of the race, and, of course, a few penalties shuffling people down the grid a little bit. But Ginetta's, as always, Jesse, much to the stewards' dismay, provides some great racing for us up here in the booth.
The pro category, an absolute chaos. Nobody taking sole control of that championship, and pretty much a deadlock between John Arazer and Miguel Martins in the silver class as well. Mike Redford, of course, joining that fray, as they have made that a triple threat between the three of them. Time will only tell how this battle will sort itself out. And wow, what a race that was. Victor Nordquist, all the plaudits for him. Just drove a smart race. He could have stuck his nose in that early stage, John, and you never know what's going to happen there, but remained patient even when he was being backed up into Nico Kumpu. Everybody kept a level head there, and in the end, it's Nordquist over the field. I wouldn't have been able to call that result if I had 100 guesses, but just a brilliant job. Excellent racing. This racetrack, these drivers, they always deliver.
Yeah, Kyalami always provides some fantastic racing, of course, with its elevation changes. Its, unsettling nature in some corners makes for some easy mistakes to make and, easy passes to happen. But none of the passes tonight were that easy, of course. Everybody fought tooth and nail for every single point that they walked away with, of course. If you asked me to put money on who would have won tonight, I'd say Daly or Boardman. I wouldn't have put my money on Nordqvist, of course, qualifying P3 just ahead of Nico Kumpu. Teammate behind, of course, Bjorn in the other Sim Brothers car, and Phil Roberts. Who would have predicted Phil Roberts to be so high at the kind of early days, should we say, of the race? That was absolutely crazy scenes by a strategy call, and it just goes to prove that you can't call anything in these one make series. It's so few and far between sometimes on who you can put your finger on. You just really can't put it on anyone at all. And I think we're just seeing a few race highlights here from the session. This is Daly looking very aggressive, trying to capitalize.
The infamous contact we
yeah,
talked about
I would say so.
Times. I'm quite curious. It happens here in Sunset. Maybe a little bit of a touch there. Keep in mind, all of this was racing incident and no further action for all parts intended. So we'll see if this continues to be something here. They thought made contact there. Daly gets a little bit of a run. He goes around the outside, and of course the session ends and absolutely blue balls us at the wrong time. You have to be kidding me. You're killing me, Smalls. There's no way. So we still don't have an idea of what happened in that section. Well, what we do know is that the stewards looked at it, and they're very intelligent, the stewards, of course, and they have determined that whatever it was either 50-50 or it was inconsequential beyond that. I would argue probably they've said racing incidents 50-50 kind of deal. Racing incident is different than a no further action. No further action typically means that both cars were at fault and both cars lost out. Racing incident is not assigning fault by proxy of little column A, little column B. And that is more common than a no further action. No further action typically happens if you and me, Dalton, would go into a corner and I would rub you and then you would run me off the racetrack. That'd be no further action because I did something to you, you did something to me. But here it is again. This is coming out of pit lane. This is lap 18 of the race. This could have been potentially for the lead and the win of the race at one point. We can only imagine what may have happened. Victor Nordquist, of course, ran away with it after this, and I was wondering why these cars were so far back, John.
Yeah,
this is exactly why. Look at them.
Yeah, that's it. They're just squabbling over each other, aren't they? They just, can't. I wouldn't say work together, but they just can't choose to fight wisely. We saw the early days how much the Nico Kumpu car managed to catch the front runners, of course, when they all started squabbling and taking lumps out of each other. It's, easy ground to gain, and there's the push. That's into the back of Rebound Racing, and then, of course, Daly backs out. Boardman probably unsighted to how close Daly was to the car ahead, then got the kind of concertina sandwich effect from, of course, losing momentum from the car ahead and then being pushed from the car behind. And we know ACC crash physics are all kinds of funky sometimes. You can just see how much grip Daly has lost through the S's, the car sliding all the way through, and that was probably the sign to, of course, throw in the towel and kind of pull the garage door down for the day and say enough's enough. But, we don't want to see anybody retire. We don't want to see, people taking lumps out of each other, etc. We do want to see clean, fair racing. But sometimes these things happen in the heat of the moment. And I'm sure both drivers will probably look back and think what they could have done differently later on. But again, Jesse, fantastic racing here today. And if you guys, of course, want to get involved with us here at RCI, you can do so by heading on over to the website. That's racerci.com. We have a very busy schedule this week. Of course, Wednesday's team championship heads into their next round at Brands Hatch, Triple R leading RRP and Luna Rossa Racing in Pro. From Ground Zero, RPMS, Simsport and Wheelie Slow Racing in Silver. Thursday, we're heading back. iRacing Season 2 heads to Daytona International for GT4s and MX5s, mixing on track. Bart Matcher won the GT4 honours, and Tom Bryant taking MX5 honours in round 1. And Friday, GT Sprint Season 13 has been delayed by a week due to low numbers, so I encourage you all to get your name down and, of course, get that season up and running. Of course, pre-qualifying and sign-ups still open for that one. And round 1 takes you to where we are tonight, of course, Kyalami. And who doesn't want GT3s running around Kyalami inches apart from each other? It'll be much like Ginetta's, except you're watching it on fast-forward mode. So, you know, why not get involved, get your name down, and see where you end up. Saturday, of course, begins, or resumes, should we say, Night Owl from round 2. Takes them to Hungaroring with Timothy Flamger leading Jordan Daly and Harry Conway after round 1. And in case you didn't catch it, of course, racerci.com is where you can get involved with the action at any given time. And of course, a quick thank you to those of you at home, whether you've just tuned in, whether you've been racing, you've been watching, you've been lurking, whatever you've been doing. Of course, we do appreciate each and every one of you. So welcome on into the RCI TV camp. We hope you enjoy your stay, and we hope that you get involved with us in another broadcast, and maybe even see you on track as well. And again, a big thank you to Ash Bibby with the 5 gifted tonight. So a few of you guys will be logging on to see what has happened there. And of course, a good message from our partners, of course, AK Esports, a leading Italian company in esports management across the world, and of course, providing our server solutions here at RCI. Driver61.com, where you can get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code. There's a link down in the description below if you're watching on YouTube, and of course, claim that. Fanatec, of course, needs no introduction. Everyone knows who they are by this point. Of course, we do have an affiliate link, so if you are looking to pick up some new hardware across the holiday season, be sure to use that, because it drops a few pennies into the RCI purse. And of course, 2 new partners for this year, digitalmotorsports.com, offering a number of products and services, right from virtual driving experiences all the way up to turnkey sim rig solutions. Founded in 2018 by 2 enthusiastic motorsports fans having a vision to create Ireland's leading digital motorsport environment and resource. Visit the link down below if you believe they can help you out. And lastly, but no means least, of course, Go Setups, formed to be one of the premium esports setup stores for Assetto Corsa Competizione. And their primary aim, of course, to create setups for all skill levels, whether you're esports ready or looking for a safer alternative for your favorite car. Of course, featuring a plethora of esports stars on their team, you can be sure the setup you choose has extensive hours behind it. And I believe they've just dropped out a load of GT4 packs. So if you are looking to get involved in GT4 racing, whether it be here with us on Wednesdays or, of course, entering the LFM GT4 dailies, then be sure to check them out, because they've probably got a setup for your favorite car. And I put money on some of the guys, running them here tonight. And being told in my ears, Jesse, we do have standings queued for the Ginettas tonight, and we can see where all of the drivers have ended up. Of course, we missed out earlier on showing you these due to technical issues, but these are as of round 2, of course, with no penalties applied post-race. So the game has worked out all the penalties. Any further ones to come will, of course, be reflected in next week's broadcast. But from the top, of course, Andy Boardman with 114 points, not too far behind Nico Kumpu on 111. Joe Dorber just behind them as well on 96, and Jeff Gordon on 81. Victor Nordquist on 77, and Bjorn Wallerius with 70 after a good points haul this round. Tom Shipston with 65, Christian Lindgren on 63, and the greatest last name in sim racing, Matthew Kingston Lee on 59, and Dale Earnhardt Sr. on 53 points, rounding out your top 10. Now, Mitchell Menes Rodriguez begins your page 2 with Tharbart Roskam on 45 apiece, Snooty McFlude on 43, and Aaron Jackson on 40. Matt Stevens, unfortunately, with some issues tonight on 37. Richard Phillips, his teammate, on 33. Les Stevenson on 31. And Jake Boswell on 25. Matthias Byron on 24. And Carlos Calatayud on 21 points. Rounds out your top 20 in Pro.
I'm still looking for Earnhardt.
Benjamin Schumann on 13, Nicholas Nordquist on 11, and Jordan Daly did manage to salvage some points from this round on 4. Unfortunately, Jeffrey Miguel Renner Ritchie has signed out of the championship due to other commitments on Mondays.
We do have the Aruba flag, though, you'll notice.
We do now.
Shout out to Mikhail Sundstrom for the assist on that one.
And it's a tie in silver between John Aracer and Miguel Martins at the head of the board, 127 points apiece, just behind Mike Redford with 112. Kevin Boss on 92, Ted Edwards on 77, and Callum Kerrigan on 75. Matthew Malcolm nets 65 points with Tim Ireland on 57. Rudy Filmalter, a good showing in his first round of the season with 48. And Lauren de Jong with 47 points rounds out your top 10 in silver. And moving on to page 2, Lavu Pavel on 46, Bren Jones on 44, Richard Hutchins on 40, Frederick Rude on 28, Sam Burnett on 23, Sarah Starn on 21, Cherry Stewart on 0, and Alexander van der Voda has unfortunately signed out of the championship and will take no further part on that one. But Jesse Lee, fantastic racing here tonight at Kyalami. It always proves to be a good circuit, and one make racing just makes it that little bit more exciting with everybody in the same machinery, and setup changes being the only difference, shall we say, between everybody on the field tonight.
Just about one of the most insane races I think you and I have called on Monday in some time, partner. It was wall to wall incredible. It would have been impossible to guess who was going to emerge victorious. And even after the pit stop, we still wouldn't have known, would we? Just a brilliant race and some fantastic driving, some fantastic defending, and of course, some high drama, to say the least, for several of the drivers involved. Those that didn't finish quite as well as they would have expected, how will they respond as we visit America for Watkins Glen next week? A very fast and flowing racetrack where one singular mistake could lead to just about a second's worth of time loss. With that big of a gap and that small of a margin for error, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to get back home to the East Coast to race in upstate New York. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, we said it today, didn't we? That, of course, the corner exits are crucial at Kyalami, and I think they're even more crucial at Watkins Glen, of course, with every straight between each corner being a good 5th or 6th gear by the time you get to the next braking zone. So keep your eyes peeled for that one, of course, next Monday here on RCI TV. And I, for one, cannot wait to head stateside for that one. But, of course, for tonight's action, that is all she wrote, unfortunately, of course. Apologies earlier for the technical difficulties, but we did manage to get it back on track for the latter half of the race. So if you are watching this back, then do be aware it's a little bit patchy in places, but yeah, do bear with us, and just skip ahead if you reach those points in the VOD. But yeah, thank you all for watching. It's been a splendid broadcast with myself, John Dalton, of course, alongside me, Jesse Lee, Ash Bibby very temporarily at the start, and of course Cormac Malloy to finish off the broadcasting duties. Thank you for bearing with us. It's been a great evening, and we hope to see you another time here on RCI TV. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.